Welcome back to part 2 of the Newbies RC guide. First part was about buggies, two-wheel drive and four-wheel drive. I touched on both. Now this part is going to be about monster trucks. Monster trucks have been around for a while, and to this day, they're still cool as hell. Just seeing these ginormous trucks go as fast as they are, over cars, racing each other, doing jumps. You got these guys now doing backflips all the time. And it's just insane to watch. The real things. Well, of course, you guessed it. With the remote control ones, you can do all that same stuff. So, without further ado, let's get into some of the pros and cons towards monster trucks. As an example here, I'm going to have one of my Traxxas sledgehammers be the little model here. So unlike with the buggies, the monster trucks, you can see, have a lot better ground clearance. Even though this is just a two-wheel drive truck, this will not get stuck anywhere near as much as the Grasshopper or the Rising Fighter or most of the two-wheel drive buggies. Again, the four-wheel drive buggies aren't going to get stuck as much as the two-wheel drives, but still. Two-wheel drive to two-wheel drive, the monster trucks, with their added ground clearance, can go at a lot more places that the buggies can't. As for suspension travel, got a lot more suspension travel with these than you do the buggies because, again, bigger shocks, bigger tires generally, and they can just do and go a lot more places than the buggies can. This truck right here, along with this one, are both from the 80s, so I won't really be adding these to the lists of, ones that you could get, although you can still find them. They are getting harder and more expensive to find. Parts for them, because they've been discontinued so long, are also hard to find for these specific trucks. As for four-wheel drive monster trucks, it's kind of the same thing. As an example, real quick, I will be using my Frankenbuster. It is a mix of Tamiya Clodbuster and Redcat Everest 10 rock crawler to make this solid axle monster truck that I love this thing. So I'm going to use this as an example here for you guys. So, just like with the two-wheel drives, the four-wheel drives, obviously it's four-wheel drive. This truck also has four-wheel steering, because the original Clodbuster has four-wheel steering, so I wanted to mimic that on this one. That's why I used an Everest 10 set of axles in the front and rear to allow for two separate steering servos for all-wheel steer. I can also change it so that way it crab walks. I have it set up on my remote to switch between four-wheel steer and crab walk, so there are ways you can set it up so you have three options, but currently right now I have my remote set up so I only have those two options. But either way, the four-wheel drives, just like with anything else, it's four-wheel drive. It's not going to get stuck on, hardly anything. As you can see, it's a monster truck. It is just an amazing amount of clearance under here, utilizing the Clodbuster chassis along with the Everest 10 frame rails. This thing just goes over everything, especially with these giant tires. So let's just put this into perspective here. Both of these trucks are 1/10 scale. That's the Sledgehammer's tire, and that's the Clodbuster's tire. So the good and the bad of it, monster trucks really don't have a whole lot of drawbacks. They have a lot of ground clearance. They can go over and do a lot more. They'll allow you to drive a lot more places where buggies will, and even short course or stadium trucks will get stuck. And the best part is there are a ton of variations of these things out. So, without further ado, let's get into it, shall we? So, seeing as how I just had my Frankenclod up there as a display and was talking about it, let's go and look at the re-release Clodbuster. So, back on the handy-dandy crap top here, Here we have the Tamiya Super Clodbuster. Now, when Tamiya re-released the Clodbuster, they called it the Super Clodbuster, and they changed some things. On the originals, the grill did not have that 4x4x4, standing for four-wheel drive, four-wheel steering, and for something. I don't know the exact abbreviation. I can't remember it off the top of my head. But 4x4x4 is something that they used to put on some of the older monster trucks, and you'd hear some of the people commenting about it. The actual what it stands for escapes me right now, but the Clodbuster bodies used to be licensed by GM, and they would have the Chevy logo right where that little 4x4x4 logo is. But as you can see, they left the tires alone. Those are the exact same size tires that are on my Frankenclod. Of course, I used a chassis, an original chassis on my custom build, but I also integrated the Everest 10 driveline because the Clodbuster and the Super Clodbuster are motor over axle, meaning that the motors are, there's one motor attached to each axle. I wanted a solid axle, more kind of scale looking monster truck. I still wanted the dual shocks. That's why I made the custom parts. It's just a little 3D printed part that I got two shocks mounted to on. Whereas the Clodbuster, just both shocks mounted directly to the axle. The motor, one motor was in each axle, driven by a speed control that connects to both. And just like I wanted to keep the original four-wheel steering, the Clodbuster has a single steering servo with an arm that goes to each axle, and when the servo turns, both wheels will go one. It'll obviously one will go one way, the other will go the other way, so that way you get proper four-wheel steering from one servo. I wanted to do that, but I also wanted it to be able to crab walk and do some other things, so that's why another reason why I did the solid axle single motor custom with the Everest 10 chassis, so that way I could have the four-wheel steering but also crab walk like some of the older monster trucks used to show off. So there's that. Clodbuster, you can still find like this Super Clodbuster is a re-release kit. This is on what am I on? RC Planet here. They have it priced for $317.99. Sorry about that. I mean, it's a little much, but if you go anywhere else, I mean, you'll still be able to find. You can find the older ones for about that price, and in pretty good shape. You can find obviously like pristine examples of the originals for stupid money. Some people want double this asking price here. But you can get the kits from Amazon. I think I've seen them for around like $250. So if you want, the only quirks really with this truck is that the suspension is super bouncy. It's not plush like a lot of the newer models because it is a kit based off of a truck they released in the 80s. So it's not gonna be winning races against modern four-wheel drive RC trucks. Keeping with the monster truck, Monster Jam style actual monster truck theme here, we got the Axial SMT10. This is the brushed monster truck ready to run for $350 with a Gravedigger body. These I see a lot of people doing retro builds using Clodbuster bodies. They take the chassis, the frame, they'll paint them. There's another one. This is the Axial. There's another, I believe there's a Losi LMT10 as well. That's kind of it's basically a slightly different version of this, but I see people using these all the time for retro monster truck builds, and they look great and they perform really well. Some of the plastic parts I keep hearing have a tendency to snap or break, so a couple of aluminum upgrades, and these things are basically bulletproof from what I keep seeing and hearing. But these are also great. Again, four-wheel drive. They look great. They seem to perform really well, and I mean, for $350, you get a ready-to-run monster truck. It's brushed, so it's not going to be super fast, but it'll do everything you want it to do. It'll go anywhere you want it to go, because again, it's a four-wheel drive monster truck with those big chevron pattern tires. Now, here's another one that it's older. You can't really, I mean, you can get them all used. Sometimes you can find them brand new at hobby shops, but the Traxxas emacs, this is the second generation, I believe. Yeah, this is the second generation emacs. As you can see, it's got the twin shocks on each corner, like the Sledgehammer, like the Clodbuster, and it's twin motor, four-wheel drive. I had one of these. I had a first generation. It was slower than dog shit, but I really am kicking myself in the ass for getting rid of it because the thing was awesome. It would go over anything. It had a 2-speed transmission, the twin motors. The only the reason why I got rid of it was because the single steering servo in the front was so weak it would hardly turn the wheels, even if it was moving at speed. Other than that, the truck was awesome, and I really regret getting rid of it. But I mean, look at that. These things are cool as hell. You can find these used for decent price. I actually have a couple of buddies that are selling a couple of them right now, this exact generation and one of the older ones. These things are just cool. Just like with the emacs, the Traxxas T-Max was a nitro. This is the electric version. The nitro version was the T-Max. Same exact truck. Well, keeping with Traxxas, here is the Stampede. This is the XL5 brushed version. You can see that's this is eBay. But that's kind of what you'll pay if you go to a local hobby shop, or you can find them used for about half that price, but they're not going to be brand new. Obviously, they're going to be used, but this is the modern Stampede. I've had a bunch of the older ones, and there's nothing really different aside from the body. They changed the body, they changed the color. That's about it. And the tires, they went to this kind of weird pattern, but they work really well. And for the price, the truck is very easy to work on and basically bulletproof. Now, this is just the two-wheel drive version. They do have a four-wheel drive version of the same chassis. Here it is. This is the four-wheel drive version. It's a little bit taller. It's got different tires, and it's got a different body. Well, it's the same body, but a different pattern, color pattern. This is the brushed version, but this also comes with a bunch of extra goodies. And this is eBay's price. You can find these ones, just like the two-wheel drive one, you can find these ones used for about half what eBay wants. And batteries are pretty cheap. You can get batteries for $20 to $30. But this is the four-wheel drive. The difference being the two-wheel drive chassis, the motor is in the back. Whereas the four-wheel drive, like most, the motor is here in the middle with a drive line that puts the power to both front and rear. So again, the two-wheel drive to the four-wheel drive, the chassis is a little bit different and the setup is a little bit different, but maintenance and working on them is basically the same. They're both interchangeably easy to work on. It's just what you're looking for. The four-wheel drive is going to be a little bit more capable, but the two-wheel drive is going to be a little cheaper, a little bit lighter. Both are going to be able to handle jumps and tricks and stunts and do all sorts of cool stuff. So I'm still here on eBay, and this guy is selling a Traxxas xmaxx. Now this is a 6th scale monster truck that's all-wheel drive. This thing is going to be huge. It's much bigger than the Stampede or even my Frankenclad. This thing dwarfs that. So this guy is asking almost $1,000. That is the price of a brand new xmaxx. So this guy is selling used one. Obviously, he's hopped it up a bit. It's got some aftermarket parts on it. So I mean, big thing with the RC hobby is customization. You buy a truck, you can customize it almost however you please. There's so many options. But for the price of a brand new one, I would just go get a brand new one. So here I am now on the Traxxas website. This is directly from the manufacturer. As you can see, brand new two-wheel drive Stampede is $180 from them directly. $180 for the XL5. They've got this one with the special ID battery for $200. They got the Bigfoot version for $230. They've got, they added lights for $240, lights to the Bigfoot version for $270. There's the 4x4 version for $300, brand new, directly from Traxxas. Let's see if I can find the xmaxx here. Brand new xmaxx. Let's see. Oh, there's still the T-Max. This is the Traxxas T-Max. Same thing as the Emacs, but it's nitro. That's their... And there's the xmaxx right here. So, we are on the xmaxx's page. As you can see, 8S, 50 plus miles an hour. This is the truck you see driving over water. This thing is ridiculous. For the price, it does all sorts of crazy stuff. And it pretty much will take just about all the abuse that you can see it taking in this video here. But the price, brand new from Traxxas, is $1,000. As you can see, there it is next to the Haas, which is the 10th scale version. And it dwarfs it. It just completely dwarfs it. It's way too rich for my blood, but so a lot of people who have them, they swear by them. So if you got the money and you want something that's just going to be able to do some crazy, stupid stunts, this is your truck. So now we're going to move on to Redcat. This is the Redcat Volcano EPX Pro 4-wheel drive monster truck. They also have a couple different versions of this for various prices. This one's brushless for brand new, right from them, for $240. So I mean, I personally haven't owned this truck, but Redcat, they used to be a very chintzy brand, but lately, the last few years, a lot of their stuff has become very much up to par with basically any of the other name brands. So, Redcat is a pretty good, especially for beginners. Just the entire brand of Redcat is probably going to be a better spot to start than something like Traxxas, unless you can find a good used one. If you want brand new, these are probably the way to go. So, just like the Volcano, this is the Redcat Terramoto 10 version 2. This I picked up a few years ago, brand new, for about that price. You can still find these, but I believe they've been discontinued. They came in this truck body, blue, red, or gray, or black, or they came in an SUV body. It just kind of didn't have this truck bed here. But it is an all-wheel drive monster truck, brushless. I haven't done anything to this thing besides add lights and some stickers, obviously, but this truck is basically stock, and it runs really well. It's pretty quick. It doesn't get stuck unless my dog tips it over. This is the only truck I will let my dogs attack. Shouldn't say attack, but they chase this one around the yard. And it's funny as hell to watch them chase this thing around the yard because, they can barely keep up when this thing's on a full battery. As you can see, they've chewed it, but it still takes the abuse. The body's cracked a little bit, but nothing serious is broken on this truck, even after I let my dogs chase it around. Let's flip it over. You can see it's got some wear and tear. Not a whole lot of warping on the hubs, or at least the center hubs. Let's look at the rear hub. Camera would focus. There's a little bit of warping in there, but those are all steel. Again, I think I paid $240, $245 for this thing brand new. I haven't had to replace anything yet on this truck. The only thing I actually did change was the receiver so I could bind it to my remote I use for the majority of my trucks. So this thing has been very good for the price I paid. You can't. You can still find these sometimes. I found a few of them used for about half of what I paid for it, so about like 125, 150. Some of them even as low as 75. But again, used, they'll be in various conditions, but you can still find them, and they are good trucks if you can pick one up that's complete. Now, similarly designed, this is the ECX Ruckus. This is the two-wheel drive version, so the chassis setup has the motor in the rear. I've had a couple of these trucks. I've had a few of the ECX models, the stadium truck, the short course truck, a couple of these Ruckus two-wheel drive monster trucks, and I've had the four-wheel drive version. The four-wheel drive version, again, is similar setup to the Terramoto, where it has the center mounted motor. It's four-wheel drive. It's got the big knobby tires. So the four-wheel drive version is basically this, just four-wheel drive. It looks almost identical. So this is eBay, of course, brand new for $150, ready to run. It's a decent looking truck. It handles decently. These things aren't terrible for the price. They are kind of slow, but again, it's a monster truck. They won't get really get stuck. The four-wheel drive is obviously more capable. I mean, it's a good truck for the price. Again, I would say if you're just starting out and you don't have a whole lot of money, the 150 price range, you can find these. Your local shop, if you have a local shop, is probably going to be around that 150 mark as well. On the same vein as that, the ECX Amp monster truck, it's a little bit more, but again, two-wheel drive, a little bit of different chassis setup, two-wheel drive monster truck. It's got those chevron patterned tires, a different body. It's essentially just a modified Ruckus. It's a little bit better, I would say, performance-wise, because it's a little bit lighter, I believe. But I haven't owned one of these. And yeah, that's about right price-wise. This is also eBay. You can find them about that price. You can get them used for a little bit less again. But these trucks are pretty good at handling abuse. So another truck that I really enjoy is the Tamiya Blackfoot. This is the re-release 2016 Blackfoot. It shares a chassis with a lot of other Tamiya models. It's got the same chassis with the Monster Beetle, the Subaru Brat, and the Tamiya Frog. It's the same chassis, so parts are readily available for this thing. The price point, this is eBay, that's a little high. You can get them brand new for a little bit less. And this one is the kit. Yeah, you can get the kits from elsewhere aside from eBay for a little less. Some you can get them for a little more. But so with that, there's Blackfoot. Here is the Monster Beetle. Yeah, the Monster Beetle is for some reason a little bit more sought after, even though it's almost the exact same thing, but it has that bug body on it. I'm not a huge fan of the body, but I love the chassis. You can find them for less than that. This is just eBay again. You can find them for a lot less than that. But with the Blackfoot, here's mine. This is my Tamiya Blackfoot. Now, what I was showing you on the computer was a re-release. This is an 80s original with some modifications. So the guy I got it from put on the much better rear end that was for racing back in the day. So some of the originals, they had a very weak driveline and they would snap or break under a lot of stress. The guy said he used to race these things, and after taking it apart and make sure everything was clean, this thing is heavily modified for racing, or was. And since I got it, I put a brushless system in it. It's got a sound kit. I did some aftermarket shocks in the rear, custom aluminum shock mounts, so I could put those custom shocks in the rear. Obviously not the original body. I did a Carolina Crusher body with this truck. Custom bumper. Parts for these things are readily available, and this is a great truck. I personally like this. Like I said, I love this chassis. It's very easy to work on. The battery tray is right there. The battery just pops in and out, no problem at all. It's pretty lightweight and it's pretty robust. And at that price, the price point that these things start out as, you can get them pretty cheap. You can get used ones even cheaper, a lot cheaper, because they're everywhere. But again, parts being everywhere with the re-release, you can just find them and you don't have to worry about not being able to find parts. If you break something, they're just great. Another 80s truck is the Mari Big Bear. Now, I did a video on mine and my reproduction parts that I'm doing, but these things are becoming harder and harder to find. But again, they're a great little truck. These things are a hell of a lot of fun to drive, and they're pretty simple, so it's very easy to maintain, but finding parts for these things is becoming very hard, and people who have the parts are charging a stupid amount of money for them. But this is just another example of a vintage two-wheel drive truck that is super fun. Now, to continue with the Tamiya trucks, this is the Lunchbox. It's 12th scale, so it's about the same size as the Big Bear. It's got a similar chassis, but it's a Tamiya, so it's different. It's got a similar pan-style chassis. The Lunchbox is another rear-wheel, two-wheel drive, rear-wheel drive monster truck with the chevron tires. This is a re-release kit that you can get. I'm on Horizon Hobby right now. You can get these for about $170. It's a kit, but see, there's the chassis, all the suspension work bits. It's pretty simple design, pretty easy to work on. They look really cool, and parts are everywhere for these as well, just like with the Blackfoot and the Monster Beetle and the Brat and the Frog. Parts are just everywhere. And similarly, these trucks here, the Lunchbox, shares a chassis with the Tamiya Midnight Pumpkin. Now, here I'm on eBay. This is the chrome version kit for about $160. That's about right. You can find them for about that from basically everywhere else. But Midnight Pumpkin is the same chassis, just a different body. Kind of like with the Monster Beetle and the Blackfoot. Parts, again, are readily available for these things because this is also a re-release kit. Originals, they'll probably run you a little bit more money if you find them in really good condition. Other than that, you'll find them used, kind of beat, but still good trucks to pick up if you can. Again, two-wheel drive. It's a fun, pretty easy truck to work on. They look really good. And for the last example, Kyosho re-released the USA 1. I say it's a re-release, but it kind of isn't because they used their 8th scale chassis. The originals were 10th scale. They were about the same size as the original Clodbuster, similarly designed, and again with a Chevy body, licensed Chevy body with that awesome USA 1 paint job. The only thing really that this truck maintains is that it comes in 2 variations, just like the original. It comes in nitro or electric. This is the electric version here. As you can see, they released it this past year, so they're kind of pricey, but I've seen a couple of these trucks running around. They're really cool looking. This chassis I don't have a whole lot of experience with, but it seems like it's a really fun truck, and I would like to add this to my roster eventually, but I gotta wait for the price to come down because it's a little bit much. So just like with the last video, those are just a few examples of, well, I say a few, but there's a lot of examples of some of the trucks you can find in the monster truck category. There are still plenty more out there. HPI, they have a truck called the Savage. It's basically, it was direct competition for the Traxxas T-Max, so it's nitro. They also had an E-Savage, or they used to, but it's discontinued. I had one, I should have kept it, but I didn't. Again, another truck I should have kept, but I didn't. They have the Savage Flux, which is the brushless version of the Savage. Some of the trucks that I showed today, like the Ruckus, they have an 18th scale version that's all-wheel drive, kind of a miniature. There's a few of them that do make miniatures. Traxxas has, I think, the Titan. It's 18th scale. It's, you know, just smaller four-wheel drive monster trucks. They're smaller in size. They're going to get stuck a little bit more because they're smaller. Price is down, obviously, because they're smaller. Not as big of a truck. Price, obviously, they're not going to charge the same price as a 10th scale. But, you know, there are a few trucks that, you know, there are a few other ones out there. If monster trucks may be your thing, definitely go to your local hobby shop and they will show you what they have in stock and what, you know, they can help walk you through it more. But this is, again, just like the first video, this is kind of a guide to help you guys out getting started. Monster trucks are cool and they will always be cool. So if you like monster trucks and you think that's something you want to get into in the RC hobby, plenty of monster trucks to choose from. Find one that fits your budget, find one that fits you, find one that you like the look of, and go from there. Because again, 90% of these trucks, there are all sorts of customizations for them. You saw with the Traxxas. Traxxas has a huge aftermarket that you can get not only from them but other companies. Other companies make aftermarket parts for the Tamiyas. The ECXs have a lot of interchangeable aftermarket parts. You can find aftermarket for almost anything in this hobby. So find a truck that fits your budget, find a truck that you like, and go from there. Again, if you like these videos and you like this kind of content, like, subscribe, hit the notification bell so you can get notified for all videos in the future. And stay tuned for part 3, where I'm not sure which type I'm going to cover yet, but that'll be coming soon.